Hey everyone, just wanted to drop a video on this subject uh, that seems to be, well, particularly in the reality TV area on the Real Housewives of Potomac uh, show and reunion last night, and seeing some some highlights of what was happened at the reunion part two and what part two of the reunion and what was said, and also just overall what's been going on the whole season of the Real Housewives of the Potomac. And and of course I'm talking about you know colorism. Um and and, let, and let's just start by saying this, because this is a subject. Let's be honest, we could be talking about this could go on for hours because there's so much I could say or have to say, okay, on this. But let me try to kind of summarize how I feel about this in terms of social media, and popular culture. Colorism is the sister of racism. Okay, they are intimately, um, they are intimately entwined. They are entwined together. They are sleeping with each other. They are having sex together. Okay, they need each other. They need each other to exist. They're in an intimate relationship. Okay, and when I hear, I will say one thing about colorism is that we, as Black people, if we start talking about, if when we talk about colorism, we have to acknowledge that it even exists when we're talking about it, because the issue is, one of the issues of colorism is that the same Black people that have no issue acknowledging that racism exists, okay, are also the same Black people that won't admit that colorism exists, which always boggles my brain. But maybe that's because the people that are saying that have some kind of benefit. In other words, if you as a Black person can admit that there is discrimination against Black peoples in the world, why can't you admit that colorism exists within the Black community? Now, I used to hear Black people say they don't want to talk about it, or they didn't want other people to hear us talk, or they wanted to keep it in the family, or they didn't want white people to hear us talking about it. Those days are over. They are, listen, white people already know that we discriminate against each other in terms of complexion because they can see what we're doing. They can see what we say. They are listening to us. They hear the conversations we have. White people are very curious as to what Black people are doing. They're always watching us. Okay. So they already know that we're picking on each other because of our complexion. They already see us making fun of each other because of our complexion. So that conversation is out there. They know. They know. Okay. So we can stop pretending like we got to keep this private. They know. They know. And we all know where we're getting it from. We're getting it from them. Okay, we the reason that we're one of the reasons we're colors towards each other is because we feel like lighter skinned Black people are closer to whiteness, and so they get treated better. They're more valued. And white people know that too. They because white people tend to treat lighter skinned Black people better. Okay? A lot of them do that because they know it's closer to them. Anything closer to white is always considered better. Are we shocked here? Like the old saying, if you're white, you're all right. If you're yellow, it's mellow. If you're brown, you can stick around. If you're Black, get back. Yeah. So again, let's just first of all admit that it exists in our community. We are colorist against each other in the Black community sometimes. We are picking on each other. There are Black people calling other Black people blackie, like it's a bit like Black is a bad thing. Okay. You're dark and ugly. You're pretty for a dark skinned girl. She's dark, but she's pretty though. Hell, there's even a verse in the Bible in the Song of Solomon that says, "I am black but comely," which basically means I'm black but pretty. I am black, but I am still pretty. I mean, comely means pretty. So even in the Bible, there's someone acknowledge there's someone as a woman that is, I guess, the maiden, okay, that Solomon, I guess, has an interest in, is saying, yes, I am black skinned, but I'm still attractive. I hope you still find me attractive. Huh? Oh my gosh. So even in the Bible, you can't escape it. What she's saying, the sun has touched her skin. Oh my God. Well, let me tell you, the sun has more touched my skin. It's made love to my damn skin. I am nice and chocolate. Okay. And I fucking love it. But bringing it on back home to more modern day. Okay. Let's jump 3,000 years from the Song of Solomon up to modern day 2023. Okay. And it is here. It is still here. It is existing. From biblical times, from Song of Solomon to now, it is still existing. People thinking blacker skinned peoples may not be as attractive or holding or pretending that they don't want to hold them in high esteem. People feeling like they're somehow inferior because they're darker skinned and people feeding into that, perpetuating that, right? So whether it's OG and Basketball Wives, and let's face it, the whole 14 years the show has been on, there's been colorism. The reason OG was kind of a breakout star about 3 years ago is because people were happy to see a dark skinned black woman stand up to members of the show that seemed to have an issue with her being dark skinned and outspoken, because it's okay to be light skinned and outspoken, right? Evelyn can be outspoken and, throw bottles and go crazy and jump across tables. And Tammy could be outspoken. Everybody could be outspoken. Shawnee could be outspoken, but not OG. Okay. There were certain people that can't be. Even Royce, when Royce was on the show the first few seasons, they got on her. Royce didn't seem to be in terms of, now, oddly enough, Royce seemed to be a bit of a fan favorite. A lot of people like Royce, but the cast of the show didn't seem to be a big fan of hers. Okay. I'm just glad she lasted as long as she did. One thing about Royce, she wasn't changed for anyone. She was very strong minded and strong willed, which I think you have to be on a show like that. And she was on for like 3 or 4 years. Let's not forget. And props to her. And oddly enough, her and Tammy are great friends in real life. But listen, Tammy, she's not innocent. Tammy has definitely perpetuated colorism at certain times of the show. When she was calling, there was one of the members, I think it was, I'm trying to think of her name. Malika. I wish I could remember her name, from season 4 or 5. And they really got into it. That's the one that she punched in the face when they were overseas. And I'm trying to think of what country they were in. They may have been in Spain. Oh, um, Monica Claxton, something Claxton. And Tammy, that's the only member of the show that Tammy actually, I think, physically punched in the face. By coincidence, just happens to be a dark-skinned black woman. She never accidentally punched Evelyn in the face. Oddly enough, the one that actually slept with your husband, you never just punched her in the face. That's interesting. You didn't punch her. But then the black woman that is the dark-skinned black woman that's never really done anything to you, you got so angry at her, you punched her in the face, but not Evelyn. That's very telling. Oh, well, okay. Well, I think we know why you never punched Evelyn, but okay. So that happens, you know. And someone could say, there was a girl named what is the light skinned girl from North Carolina, speaking of light skin, who's, I believe she was actually, she definitely could pass for white. I think she had a black father and a white mother. Okay. And yes, Tammy was not nice to her. She definitely bullied her. I agree. So it's not that that Tammy has not been mean to people that are lighter skin, but she seems to reserve some of the most venom for the darker skin ones. And so she never, but you know what I noticed about that girl? She never punched her. Again, she got really mad at some of the light skinned women on the show, but she would really never go so far as to really punch them, except Miss Claxton. That's the one that she punched. That will always go down as the only cast member that Tammy Roman physically punched. Keep that in mind. Okay. So while I'm glad that, Tammy and Royce are cool in real life, I sometimes look at Tammy with a side eye too. Okay. Um, so again, this is why OJ, oh my God, OG was a breakout favorite, because people were just happy to see someone stick up to the cliquishness of it all. It was kind of a mean girl thing, and it did all appear for the most part that it was a lot of the lighter skinned girls doing it. Okay. So yeah, and it's the same thing going on with the Housewives of Potomac. It does appear that darker skinned women are held to a different standard, where we're labeled aggressive immediately if we show any display of anger. Okay, we have to be calm all the time. If we're not calm all the time, we're ferocious and scary. We're like beasts. We're like monsters. We're animal like, right? And when it's someone lighter skin or Hispanic woman, they're called a spicy or feisty Latina. It's sexy then. But when we do it, we're the angry black woman. Particularly if we're dark skinned, we're definitely the angry black woman. You know what I mean? So there's so much going on with that. And listen, again, the first step is to admit, like they say in any 12-step program, the first step is admitting that you have a problem. We have to admit that we within the black community have an internal issue ourselves. We don't listen. Sometimes black people act like what we say white people act like when it comes to racism. How we say they act like they don't see it. They don't see it. I can't see it. I need evidence of it. Well, is it really there? That's sometimes how some of us act. Well, does colorism really exist? I don't know. I mean, I get treated bad sometimes and I'm light skinned. I don't know about that. Really? Remember, we're talking about the rule, not the exception. So if I'm talking about this and you're light skinned and you go, yeah, but wait a minute, I didn't have it always easy. I mean, I had it kind of rough growing up. I was teased. We're talking about overall, obviously. See, that's like someone that's talking a woman that's talking to a man and trying to explain what it feels like to be discriminated against because she's a woman, right? And she's talking about sexism in the workplace, okay? And the man says to her, "Yeah, but I feel like men have it hard too. We go through things too. I've suffered. I've been discriminated against too. We said no one is saying that men can't be discriminated against and men in life don't go through. Everyone has their cross to bear. No one is saying your life is easy as men. We're saying overall that women tend to have it harder because they're women. Women do get discriminated against overall more than men. That is literally a statistical proven fact worldwide. Women have it harder than men. They get discriminated against more than men. That is a fact. I don't care if it makes you angry to hear that. I don't care if a man's listening to this and he wants to roll his eyes and stop listening to recording. I don't give a shit. It is what it is. That is a documented fact that women face more discrimination overall in life, and women across the world suffer in a way that men can't imagine overall. Of course, there can be exceptions. So please don't tell me about the man that that's. We're not saying that. We're talking about overall. Okay, don't give me the exception. We're talking about the rule. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Of course, there's exceptions, but we're saying overall in totality as an aggregate. Okay, in general, yes, women do. Okay, it doesn't mean that there aren't men that haven't been hit by women or even abused by women. We're not saying that. We're saying overall, it's the man that does it. Okay, so don't come on and say, "Well, I knew a guy that got his woman was beating him." Yes, but is that how common? Is that extremely common? Do you think overall in the world, who gets abused between the genders more, men or women? I think we know. Okay, let's be clear. And I don't care again if you get mad about it. That's not my concern. I'm not trying to make you comfortable right now. I'm trying to make you hear it. You need to hear it. Okay? So the same way women of all races seem to have no trouble accepting the fact that as women there is discrimination against women around the world in general. Okay? It doesn't mean that we can't succeed and try to and make it. It doesn't mean it's necessarily going to stop us making. It's just saying that we may have more obstacles and roadblocks than the man. It's not meant to discourage you. It's just a fact. It doesn't mean you can't make your way in the world to be successful and be the president. You can. We're saying overall that you may have more roadblocks, but it doesn't mean you can't win. Okay. So when we talk about racism, it doesn't mean we're saying black people can't win. It's just saying we're going to have more roadblocks. Okay. So none of this is meant to discourage, but you have to admit that it even exists in the first place. So first, that means black people, we have to start admitting that we have an issue with colorism in our own community. Okay. Black men have to admit that there's colorism because black men won't even admit that there's even any colorism. Okay. So they act like they're blind and they're acting like, Karens, like they can't even see it. So black men need to admit, yes, colorism exists. Okay. Yes, it does. Just like you just admit that it exists. Okay. It exists. And I think the sooner that we admit that we have a problem internally, the better. We can't really deal with, listen, in terms of racism, that's a separate issue. But in terms of colorism, that's our own issue. To me, colorism is part of racism when it's against black people as a whole. Yes, because again, like I said, they're intimate with each other. They're in a relationship together. But when it comes to us as black people around the world, we have an issue with our own self. We have an issue where we have bits of self-hatred, and it's popping up in interesting ways to me. I'll just say that. I can see it. I don't care if you see it or not. I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable. There's so many examples of the fact that Black people are not comfortable in their own skin, and that's part of it. Okay. So just wanted to drop a few thoughts there. But again, I think we need to start having more discussions about this. One thing I will say about Real Housewives of the Potomac, as frustrating as it is to watch that, and again, going back to Basketball Wives and reality shows like that, that you could see it happening. I'm glad the discussion is at least being raised. I will say we've made some I don't want to come off as if we have made some progress. And I will say this, I don't even think we would have had a discussion about this 20 years ago. Would have been unheard of in 2003. So the fact that we're talking about colorism openly, particularly even starting with OG a few years ago, that's a good thing. That is a good thing. And I think we need to have more discussions on it. And I think the more we discuss it, I think it's starting to change. I can kind of slowly but surely see the tide start to turn in terms of our openness to admit that it exists and talk about it and try to stamp it out within our community. Okay, so just wanted to drop some thoughts on that, but be back soon.